Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to episode 161 of Tech for Tea. I am, as always, Brody Robertson. Welcome back to the show, and today we have a developer on the show. Welcome to the show, Vaxry, the developer of Hyperland. I guess Hyper as well, but no one's really paying attention to that one. Hyperland's the main focus right now. How's it going?
I'm doing fine. I'm all right. Yeah. Hyper's dead regarding that.
I didn't even know Hyper existed until I heard about Hyperland. So how long had Hyper been around for? Did it really have any sort of user base, or was it just one of these like little window managers that a couple of people knew about?
Oh, I made Hyper like a long time ago. I think it was December 2021 even.
Mm-hmm.
I just made it because primarily I started my Linux journey on KDE, and I have been KDE for a while. Then I switched to i3 because one of my friends was pressuring me to switch to i3 or else they will kidnap me or something.
Yep.
And so I switched to i3, but I hated i3. It was terrible. It was garbage. I
It's a
liked the
manual
tiling.
tiler.
I like the tiling. I installed a script for auto tiling.
Right, okay, yeah.
But it just had so many quirks and annoyances. Like, I just remember moving windows around was so unpredictable that it was literally painful. Like, I wanted to move a window to the left, and it would randomly go to the bottom, to the top left, to the right even sometimes, and it was so annoying that I was just like, what if I write my own? And that was a big mistake, because that, by the snowball effect, cascaded now into me developing software for tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
But so Hyper in the beginning, I got a bit of a user base. It wasn't a lot of people, but it was honestly more like just a window manager for me, just to fit that niche use case that I wanted it to be. Like, I didn't know about BSPWM, and it was mostly BSPWM, to be honest.
Right. I was gonna ask you why, what
It was mine.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you what was different about Hyper that sort of made it stand out from the rest of the dynamic tilers out there, because there's a lot of them.
The real thing that made it stand out was the fact that the window manager, not the compositor, supported animations and rounded corners. So you didn't have to have PyCom for those, which was pretty cool. But the animations were kind of laggy because, well, Xorg plus it's the window manager doing it.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't be, and PyCom had some issues. Like, for example, during animations, the shadow wouldn't update, so it looked kind of weird.
Yo.
But generally, Hyper amassed like 600 or something stars, so I wouldn't say it was like a completely underground project, but it definitely wasn't a big one.
Yeah.
I posted like my workflow like once, twice, or thrice to Unixporn, and it got a bit of traction. And that actually smoothly translates to me and Hyperland, because
Yeah, these
I remember
screenshots are definitely Unixporn screenshots. Wow.
either the first or the second post that I made on Unixporn
Yep.
got like 1,500 upvotes, which is like, oh, a bunch.
Wow.
And almost every single one of my posts onto Unixporn got like over 1,000 upvotes. But I either first or the second, there was this one guy that made a comment, basically using a lot of expletives and generally unnice terminology to describe me and me making something for X, which he thought was bad, old, deprecated. Why are you using this? Oh my god, you're stupid. And
Yep.
he got downvoted into oblivion. He later deleted his comment, but I probably still have a screenshot somewhere. I mean, I hope I do, because it was really funny. Because basically, I replied with "none of your effing business," because he was using so many expletives that I just replied. I would say "none of your effing business," but I'm not that rude. Basically, that was kind of like that moment that I actually learned about Wayland, because
Oh, wait, you didn't even know about it up until that point?
No, when I made Hyper in December, I've been using Linux for like 4 months or like
Oh,
5.
wow.
I've
Okay.
been a very new Linux user. I started using Linux in May 2021,
Mhm.
and then December 2021 I started Hyper. So I was using KD for like 3 months maybe.
Wait, so what distro did you
Um,
start on?
I wanted to start on Endeavor,
Yeah.
but at the time I had an NVIDIA graphics card.
Ah, okay.
Great. And I actually started using Linux when NVIDIA drivers were causing kernel panics on almost all cards before the 20 series.
Right.
So I started Endeavor, it loaded, then I clicked like install, it installed, and I clicked install NVIDIA drivers, and it would not boot again. Then I tried a fresh install, the installer would not boot,
Uh-huh.
and I was like, Jesus Christ, what's wrong? And I remember having 2 Linux friends trying to help me, both failed, and they were just like, okay, just try a different distro. And one of my friends started on Manjaro, and he said, just try Manjaro. And Manjaro worked because their NVIDIA kernel driver was older. Because they
Wow, for
haven't
once.
pushed the new release yet, so
once
it
Manjaro does
worked,
something
and
good.
then a week later it broke. But then I just knew that it was NVIDIA, and I downgraded NVIDIA and held it. It was fine. So I started in Manjaro, but it was
Yes.
super annoying, and so I switched to just plain Arch like
Okay,
2 months later.
So you've been using Arch now for like 2 or so years?
Yeah, basically. I'm an Arch Linux user, by the way.
Absolutely. Yeah, the only correct answer.
And
So yeah, the person telling
so
you to unalive yourself about Wayland.
yeah, then I learned about Wayland. I was like, that's pretty cool. And I just replied that, the window manager is made in a pretty modular fashion, so if I want to migrate to Wayland, I can do that in the future, whatever. Just kind of brushed it off, but kept it in at the back of my head because I was like, maybe something. Then I remember like 2 months later, I was like, hey, let's try out this Wayland thing, and I was like, I can see a couple like Wayland compositors like DWL, like Vivarium, like Sway at the time. And I was like, yeah, NVIDIA is going to be a problem because I still had an NVIDIA card.
Right.
And I tried to launch them on my X11 session because apparently the people told me that it should launch in a window, which it should.
Should.
But on NVIDIA, it won't because I didn't apply the kernel pad parameters and the patches and whatnot and config options, so it just didn't work. So I was like, whatever, I'll just hold it off for a moment. But then a lamp, a small little light popped out of my head, and I was like, it's the height of the GPU shortage. What if I just buy an AMD GPU? That was a mistake. But
how much extra did you pay than you should have paid?
I don't want to admit, but I had an NVIDIA 1080 Ti,
Right.
which I bought used, and I sold it used for more money than I bought it for.
Yup.
So,
Yup.
And then with that money, I mean, kind of backwards, I bought an AMD, a Red Devil RX 6700 XT, which is still sitting in my computer, which is a way too powerful card for my uses because I play Counter-Strike,
You
and
play it like
apart from
1,000
that,
FPS.
like turn-based strategy games from 15 years ago. No cap 15 years ago. So this card is definitely overkill for me, but at least it will stick for a while.
Yeah, just don't upgrade for a while now.
I bought it for over 1,000 US. So yeah.
Oh god, yep.
But the thing is, I bought it used. So I asked my dad to drive me to the guy.
Wait, I'm sorry. Hold up a sec. You bought it used for over 1,000 US.
Around 1,000, yeah.
Jesus, oh, I forgot how bad it was.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, the exchange rate then was a bit
Yeah.
well, now it would probably be less US because the exchange rate of the currency, Polish currency. But I asked my dad to drive me to the guy, and we went there, and it was just his house, and the card was used in a crypto miner.
Of course it
So
was, yep.
when I went to the guy went out with the card. I had the cash, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, hell yeah! So what are you buying it for? You're gonna mine Ethereum or something?" I was just like, "I just hate Nvidia." And he just looked at me dead in the eyes. I was just like, "What? All right, just take the card." I just gave him the money. He didn't want to talk to me because when I said I just hate Nvidia, he was like, "What the fuck? What?" What?
So
Yeah, he was very confused. He looked at me like I was the spawn of Satan or something, just
yeah,
coming here for his card.
that's not the kind of person who plays a video game. All they see is how much crypto can I mine per hour? What is the optimal card to buy?
But he asked me am I gonna do heavy gaming as well? And I said, nah.
Oh,
I just hate Nvidia. He was like, okay, brother.
sure. Okay.
Yeah, so I bought the card. I got it to my home and installed it in my PC. And of course, the first thing I had to do was sit for 2 hours and remove all the Nvidia things that apparently there were a lot
Yep.
because my drivers wouldn't work if I had Nvidia modules installed.
Right.
Then
Yeah.
normal people, when they get a new GPU, they launch Cyberpunk or something to just test the frame rates or whatever. What I did was I opened VS Code and I made a new project called it Hyperland. Um, I didn't even use the graphics card per se, up until a week later when I actually played some CS:GO on it, and I was like, oh shit, this thing actually is pretty good. Yeah.
I don't know how you
so
notice
I-
the difference with if you're playing CS:GO with a 1080 versus 6700 XT. You're gonna be
I
getting
did
so many
th-
frames anyway.
No, 1080 Ti was actually noticeably worse
Really?
than
Okay.
6700 XT. Yeah. Maybe because I had maybe because 1080 Ti was the bottleneck. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Something.
But I made Hyperland. It was the beginning of March 2022 because it was I think the 14th or 13th because we had an 1 year anniversary a couple days ago.
Oh wow.
Of Hyperland. Because it started in March 2022, and it was a mess in the beginning.
Yep.
I learned a lot of things from building Hyper, and I'm really glad that I did make Hyper before Hyperland because it outlined a lot of flaws in my thinking about such a piece of software. I made a lot of mistakes in Hyper that I just wanted to rectify from the beginning in Hyperland just to never have them again. For example, one of the mega painful things in Hyper was the fact that layouts were not a separate thing from the window manager. Layouts were baked into the logic. So already with 2 layouts in Hyper, just dwindle and master, it was a spaghetti of an absolute mess. It was terrible. Changing anything. The code for adding a new window, 90% of it was just layout related stuff. And in the middle, there was other logic, and it was just super painful to work with. So, in Hyperland, from the beginning, I split layouts into separate things, into separate modules that are just work independently of the entire window manager part. And so you have the window manager part, and you have the compositor part. So they just interact with each other, but are separate. So you basically can make a new layout by creating 2 new files and just writing code for the window manager.
I have no understanding of making a Wayland compositor. But I presume the layout stuff works roughly the same sort of concept as Xorg. The Wayland side.
No, it's fundamentally different.
Fundamentally different. Okay.
Yes. Xorg is terrible. Xorg is kind of like Windows. I think in Windows it's actually almost the same, as in everything is treated a window. It's just that Windows have those hints, those modes, those things that tell the compositor or the window manager how to interact with them. So on Xorg, you have the horrible atoms. So you have a list of around 100 atoms, which are just text. and a window can have multiple atoms. For example, oh, this atom tells the window manager to make it sticky, or this atom tells the window manager to make it floating, or whatever. Actually, floating is done even worse. But like they kind of tell what to do. Like you can do like an atom to skip pager, to like skip the taskbar or whatever.
Right.
And it's just like this entire mess of like who adds new properties to strings and who supports them and whatever. It's just like zero standardization. It's just like give me a list of strings and the display server maybe understands them.
Right.
Which is terrible, because like every pop-up, every like context menu, every drop down, all of those are windows, which is terrible for differentiating them and like, well, doing anything useful to them. So in Wayland, you only have like a window is not really a thing. You do not have like strictly a window. There is no concept of a window in Wayland. Like in the core spec, we don't use the word window once because there are no windows in Wayland, because we don't like Microsoft, so we won't use their trademarked windows to describe anything, obviously. Right. So when you have a Wayland desktop, it's comprised mostly of three things. First is the top levels, which is something that you would consider a window, for example, a browser or Discord or I don't know, a very obscure game with
CSGO.
A very expletive title that your friend has gifted you, and it costs like 20 cents on the Steam market.
Or just
yeah,
so,
oh, oh god, I have 2,000 hours in Neptunia.
Yup, absolutely.
I don't want to talk about it.
Great games.
So these are top levels, and then because in Wayland a top level doesn't know where it is, it can't really open other windows for stuff like pop-ups or drop-downs or stuff like that, because it wouldn't know where to place them, and Wayland apps cannot place themselves because they don't know where they are. Right. So instead of that, every top level has a tree of subsurfaces and pop-ups. So a subsurface is just a smaller surface that the top level can say where in its parent surface, so in its top level coordinates it is. So for example, a drop-down in Chrome would be a subsurface. Right. And a pop-up is a subsurface that can go outside of the bounds of the window, because sometimes if you open a context menu, it may go outside the window.
Yep.
So all of these are constrained to the top level and work in the top level's coordinate space. So there is no other windows created by the app. Well, sometimes if you have, for example, a dialog box, that will open a new window, of course. But stuff like drop-downs and like hints, like stuff like that, like all of this is just subsurfaces and pop-ups. And the third thing is layer surfaces, which a lot of people, and I mean a lot of people, confuse with windows. Because if you're in Wayland, your background, so your wallpaper, or your status bar, so your taskbar, waybar, or whatever, these are not windows, because there are no windows, and they aren't top levels, because top levels cannot position themselves. So instead, they are layer surfaces, which are kind of like, you have 4 separate layers that you can put layer surfaces on. You have 2 that are below the top levels and 2 that are above the top levels. So you have background, which is usually for wallpapers. You have bottom, which is for maybe like widgets or something on your desktop, for example, icons or whatever. Then you have top, which is reserved for stuff like probably like your launcher or your bar. And then you have the overlay, which is like, I don't know, a screen locker, a screenshot utility or whatever. So you have those layers which can position themselves, kind of. Basically, they can request a size, they can request anchors, they can request kind of like mostly positioning, and they can request reserved area. For example, like your top taskbar or top bar or whatever it's called, waybar. So these things often get confused for Windows, and people ask me like, oh, you have window rules for animations, but I can't find waybar or row fee. in my list of clients. What's wrong? What happened? Well, the problem is that Rofi or your taskbar are not a window. And these kind of work and have like a different set of rules how they govern, but generally things that should be layer surfaces are better to be layer surfaces. Like if you have Rofi, there is a Rofi Wayland fork which opens a layer surface instead of a window, and it works way better because the focus is more streamlined. It's described in the protocol. Meanwhile, if you have a Rofi X11, we literally in in WL roots have a function that tries to guess whether a type of X window that shouldn't be managed by the window manager should be focused or not. But it's not 100% accurate because Xorg. Because it's just guesswork.
Yep.
So it doesn't always work. So it's just better for that to be a layer surface, because a layer surface can request it to be in the middle of some screen, can request to be focused, can request to grab the focus so you don't click away from it and suddenly it's unfocused. So like the launcher grabs your focus. The only downside is that currently it's a WL roots protocol, but I think KDE also supports it. I don't know about GNOME. GNOME is like 10 years behind everywhere else.
I can just quickly check it.
Layer shell. WLR layer shell. There is a merge request open for like a slightly modified layer shell to the ext namespace. But we all know how the ext namespace works. You make a merge request to the ext namespace, get 10 comments, you resolve them all, then you wait a year, and then you get 10 more comments. And yeah, rinse and repeat. Getting anything into Wayland protocols, terrible. Corporate as hell.
Just before we get into that, GNOME has not implemented it. So, yeah.
But I think KDE has.
That sounds right. Yeah. GNOME didn't have any interest because they don't have any interest in supporting things outside of the GNOME stuff, because they do. I know they do their bar in a different way. It's like a part of the compositor or something weird.
Probably have their own protocol.
No, they definitely have their own protocol for doing it, and they don't want to support like adding
KDE
other things
also has. KDE also has, but if I recall correctly, KDE is actually making progress to move to WL roots. So
okay, I did not hear about that.
I heard somewhere that the base is actually slowly being ported to WL roots, which would be a great thing because more standardization, and we would get more stable WL roots. But yeah, it would be pretty cool if it moved.
Before I sidetracked you there, you were talking about getting things into the main set of protocols.
Oh, terrible! Absolutely garbage. The life cycle of a protocol. Then you make a merge request, you get 10 comments, you solve them all, then you wait a year, and then you get 10 more comments. And then after like maybe 2 years, the protocol either gets denied or gets suddenly some interest, probably because someone like Valve paid someone like Simon Sir to maybe move his ass and actually do something about this, and then we get a new protocol. Yep. Cool. I think that's what actually happened with Terring. Actually, the protocol I think got merged because Simon got paid by Valve.
For anyone unsure about who Simon Sir is, that is the guy who made Sway and by extension WL Roots as well.
Oh, he maintains Sway. Drew the Vault made.
Yeah, sorry, Sway. Yeah, right. Yeah, Drew made it. Simon. Yeah, maintains it now.
Simon maintains Sway, he maintains WL Roots, and he is a member of Wayland protocols.
Yeah.
I think one of the more active ones, actually.
Right.
Some other people, I will not name names, are not very active and only start being active when they want to say why something is stupid.
When they want to argue about something, yeah. I've going through looking at like doing videos on various like protocol proposals. I've certainly noticed a couple of names that show up just for the sake of why are you stupid? I don't understand you.
I know one guy that is trying currently to get a protocol for an app to list clients like running, like list top levels running on the system, which would be useful for stuff like a screen share picker, because currently
Oh.
the Hyperland in XDG desktop portal Hyperland, it uses a WL roots protocol to list the top level handles, but it's of course it's a WL roots protocol. So the guy is trying to streamline it into EXT. And he got a couple comments, and it's been dragging on for like half a year now, probably. And so because the process, and I quote, was so onerous, I think that's what Daniel Stone said, Simon made a proposal to relax the requirements for the protocols in EXT, because previously, I mean currently still, they required 2 acknowledgements from different Wayland protocols members. And so he said that because EXT is, it's just extensions, so it's not kind of core protocol, so it's like it doesn't really matter if there will be like lesser used protocols there, as long as they have a use and they legitimate, make sense, you should probably get them. So he said that it should be 1 acknowledgement from a Wayland protocols member. So for example, if all WL roots compositors would benefit from it, then Simon could acknowledge it as the WL roots maintainer, and 1 acknowledgement from like a third-party project. So for example, me, as
Right.
for example, right? Because I maintain Hyperland, which is the best Wayland compositor ever. But continuing.
It's certainly at least in the top.
Yeah, it's in the top 1.
I was going to say top 3. I can't think of too many others I'd really care about. At least top 3. I'll give you top 3. I don't know about top 1. Maybe when things stabilize a little bit and you're not making changes every single hour.
I mean, every single hour. I make changes every 2 hours. Anyways, continuing.
Yes.
He said that, yeah, you should get 1 acknowledgement from a Wayland protocols member and 1 acknowledgement from like a third-party project. And then a guy whose name I have never seen, and I mean never seen that, just stormed in and said, basically, in a very long paragraph, something like, why should we do this? Because what stops people from making a protocol for EXT kill the compositor and merging it into Wayland protocols? I'm like, brother, what the what? I'm like, yeah, because a protocol called EXT crash compositor is going to pass through 1 acknowledgement from the Wayland protocols, and the reviewer from Wayland protocols that has to review both of the acknowledgements, review the protocol, and actually sign it. So like, yeah, we're getting a EXT crash the compositor
Does this
protocol.
person not realize that you can crash the compositor just using HTOP?
Yeah. I mean, you can crash the compositor by just writing kill all.
Yeah, you don't
-9.
You don't need like what is. It's not
Yeah,
like you need to be
basically.
a super user to crash something. Like what?
Yeah, I mean, you can crash GNOME by launching certain applications. Last time I checked.
And let's just imagine for a second. Just imagine that protocol did exist, and for whatever reason it passed. No one will implement it. Why does it matter?
Yeah. In the first place, it won't pass, even if you relax those requirements, because nobody's going to acknowledge it. And further, he raised the point that, oh, what stops this? Not like we can knack a protocol. Yeah, people can knack a protocol. People can not acknowledge a protocol. And that kind of like blocks it from being merged. So like it takes 1 Wayland protocols member to say like, hey guys, this is not a good idea. And like the protocol is kind of stopped in its tracks. So like, the person appeared out of nowhere just to say that it's bad to make this feel less like we need to go to Obama for a signed approval of our top-level info protocol, because otherwise, it's probably not a good idea to merge it. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible. My experiences with Hyperland protocols developers, I hate them all equally. Yeah, like I hate Simon the most, but probably because he's the most active, because all of them are the same types of assholes. So the thing is, my first encounter with, okay, when it comes to issues, they usually reply with something that makes sense,
Right.
and then they actually try to help, more or less. Sometimes once I had to wait a month for a response, but ignoring that, They mostly reply with something that makes sense, especially in the Hyperland's early days. There were some things that were poorly documented because WL Roots has zero documentation, basically. It's just kind of like figure it out yourself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Wayland, WL Roots says, WL Roots is documented by comments. Read them. And then you go into the code. There are no comments. So yeah, that's very funny. I remember there was a problem with Viewporter I had. It said the only comment about implementing Viewporter was compositors need to update their logic and use this instead of this. Did this. It caused 10,000 issues. Yeah, the documentation WRoots is terrible, but it's kind of expected. It's not really a framework for many like people that really need to learn how the computer works to use. It's kind of like this low-level library that kind of documents itself, I guess. But I guess you can read stuff like Sway or DWL or Wayfire to just get a rough understanding of how things work. That's how I learned WL Roots, because I'm not reading the code that they gave. It's just terrible. Yeah, imagine reading 80,000 lines of code just to find something. I'm just gonna look at how Wayfire did it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look how Wayfire did it. Wayfire did it this way. Oh, I understand how this works. Okay, thanks. So my experience, yeah, I had some issues, especially in the beginning, with things that were poorly documented. I sent them to the bug tracker. They helped a bit, and yeah, in the end, I managed to solve the issue like 90% on my own. But then I don't remember which one was first. Okay, so one of them was first, one of them was second. I don't remember, but one of them was me implementing the tearing support in WL Roots, because WL Roots still doesn't support tearing. So when the tearing protocol got merged, I wrote an implementation for the tearing hint in WL Roots. It just implemented the hint because the protocol technically was just a hint.
Yep.
The protocol didn't like say explicitly the compositor has to enable tearing or whatever. It's just a hint. It's just like kind of please tear me.
Yep.
So I implemented this hint in WL Roots, and I wrote an implementation in Hyperland for the compositor. And after like 80 comments about the style, which thanks WL Roots devs for making a 200-line MD file about the style, not providing a Clang format file. So basically, you had to do manual formatting. Great.
Yep. That sounds fun.
So, like 80 comments about the format and stuff like that. Simon asked me a question like, how should this protocol be used? I'm like, the compositor can either ignore or not a request for an app to be torn, probably only when it's full screen and when it's the only surface that's showing. And yeah, that makes sense. But I said that, of course, WL Roots currently doesn't allow tearing. It can't do tearing. And so he was like, yeah, and I asked whether should the tearing implementation, like the actual tearing, be in this PR or should it be in the separate? And he said that he doesn't care. It can be either. And so I said, all right, cool. I looked through the code. I tried a bunch of things, but I am not a graphical engineer or whatever, or a Linux engineer, and I can't really figure out how to do tearing in WL Roots. I generally don't know. I'm not really proficient with like low-level KMS stuff. And so I was like, yeah, I tried this, and this, which was mostly removing checks that prevented submitting more frames than the frame rate, and it just ended up making more errors. Yeah. So obviously removing safety checks isn't really going to help here. But yeah, I just said that I tried this, and this. And do you have any pointers for me? That was the last message in this PR. It's been like 8 months.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So this was, yeah, and the PR is still open. There was literally nothing more that has happened, so we still don't have tearing in WL Roots. Great. Then, I don't know if this was before or after, we have the global shortcuts dbus thing, right? The portal.
Yeah.
Yeah, in wroots. Yeah, so because I'm still not really keen on implementing it. I have other things to do because pretty much nothing still supports it. So it's like kind of whatever. When OBS starts supporting it, I will implement it.
Yeah.
I think Mumble is actually also working on implementing it.
Oh wow. Okay.
But so I made a protocol proposal to Hyperland protocols for a protocol between the Hyperland desktop portal and Hyperland for the global shortcuts. Great, cool, amazing, wonderful. And someone stormed into the discussion and said, would I mind sending this protocol over to EXT instead of Hyperland protocols for other people to also implement? And I was like, I don't know, my experiences with Wayland protocols are kind of mixed, but I'll join the WL Roots IRC and ask there. Joined. Asked. 2 days later, conversation resumed on a completely unrelated topic. Nobody ever noticed my message. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Great experience. 10 out of 10 would recommend. I will not be sending this protocol to EXT. Because we already have like protocols in Hyperland protocols that, because on Sway, like another annoying thing on Sway, you can only screen share your monitor, right?
And so you can only screen
You cannot share a window.
Yeah.
You cannot screen share a region.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed this with OBS. Window capture just doesn't exist.
Yes. On Hyperland, you can currently share a monitor or a window. Region sharing is broken because WL Roots implementation of the screen copy protocol is broken. It's very broken. And Hyperland uses the WL Roots implementation. There is an open PR currently in Hyperland for my own implementation of the screen copy protocol, which fixes two issues. First of all, people not being able to screen share on scaled displays, which is also a WL Roots issue. And second, people not being able to screen share regions, which is also WL Roots issue. It fixes both of them, but it's still open because there is one thing that I still want to add there that there is no support for currently. But I'll probably get to it in like a couple days and just finish it. Because it's also really annoying on my laptop, because I can't record, screen share anything on my laptop because I scaled the display, and the WL Roots implementation just kind of breaks on scaled displays. It's unable to send a single frame, basically. So the only thing I can screen share is a window, because my own implementation of the screen copy protocol, and by extension the window copy protocol, better, apparently. Yeah, so like on Hyperland, you can currently screen share a monitor and a window, but you will be able to screen share also a region in like the following days, probably. So we are here ahead, and in the same vein, you will be able to use global shortcuts whenever people start implementing them. And then I'll write an implementation in Hyperland, because it's not really a big deal. It's pretty easy.
Didn't Hyperland already have some sort of thing beforehand, or am I thinking of something else?
Yes, but when apps start supporting the global shortcuts portal, they probably will stop supporting the legacy method.
How did the legacy method actually work?
The legacy method works basically like X11. It just kind of listens for the key presses that you do.
Right.
And whenever it matches, it matches.
Okay,
but on Wayland, since when a window is unfocused, it doesn't get any events. It doesn't get any events. And the portal, it's the reason why it can't really do both at the same time, or at least why it would be really, really weird for it to do so, is due to how the portal actually works. It's really weird for someone that doesn't really do computers, but it makes sense in the standpoint of security, because Wayland, everything is security.
Yeah.
And because an app, whenever it wants global shortcuts to be on the app, whenever it opens, it will send through dbus to your XDG desktop portal a list of shortcuts that you can use in the app. So, for example, OBS will send, I don't know, play, pause, record, stream, stuff like that. and then the portal will pass them onto the compositor, and the compositor is tasked with handling how to bind them. So the protocol, the app, never knows what the keys are bound to. So the only events that it receives is this key got just pressed, this key got released. That's basically why on KDE that has implemented this, the shortcuts for apps that use those global shortcuts are in the KDE settings, and not in the apps. Because the app cannot know what the shortcut is bound, it cannot bind it to anything, it just knows whenever it gets pressed and whenever it gets released. That's it. Which, from a standpoint of security, of course, the app can't snoop on your keys, but from a standpoint of typical Windows user, it probably is unintuitive, because a typical Windows user goes into OBS and has in OBS a list of keys that he can just assign to stuff. Meanwhile, here, it's just going to be like probably like you go to hotkeys, and it's like probably hotkeys are managed by your operating system, and then click here, and then it opens KDE settings or whatever. Because I think there's also a method to open settings. So it can just ask the compositor to open settings, and it opens the keybind settings. So yeah, implementation of this, really simple. It will take me like probably like 4 hours or something to do. So like a day or two. So it's no big deal, but I currently have better things to work on than shortcuts that won't be really used for a while. And I won't have a great test client, because the only test client is the KDE test client, which I don't like. It only makes one shortcut, and it's not actually a real world example. I like testing things with real world stuff, with like because it's kind of like with driving. I don't have a driver's license, but people that got a driver's license, my friends, tell me that after you actually do your driving license exam and like all the classes and all the practical stuff, you start noticing how absolutely dumb and absolutely batshit insane things people can do on the road. And that's the same case with applications. People can do absolutely the weirdest things with their applications.
That like, definitely makes sense, yeah.
Remember how I told you about subsurfaces, right? That apps can open a subsurface, like a menu or something. All browsers, for whatever reason, leave their primary window surface completely transparent and draw everything on a full window subsurface. What? Why? Yeah, why? That's a good question. It messes with my animation system. I still haven't fixed that. It's like a 9-month-old bug that it kind of resides independently. I don't know why they do that. No clue, but they do.
Is this both on the Chromium and the Firefox side?
Yes, Firefox and Chromium.
Okay,
both.
Sure. I could have understood if it was just one or the other, but there has to be a reason if they both do it then, surely.
There has to be a reason. I still don't know what the reason is, though. It's really weird. And yeah, subsurfaces are just one cause of my misery. We've had two. My 19 personalities. We have had two super annoying issues on Hyperland that were driving me insane for 2 weeks each, because I made a typo and I couldn't notice it for 2 weeks. So, you know how double roots is a C library?
Right.
And we all know how safe and secure and memory amazing is C. Yeah.
Sure, yep.
Memory safety in C doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Anyway, so when you pass something to C, it will treat it at face value. If it expected something, it expected that thing and nothing else. And okay, the problem is when you pass something that it did not expect. Well, you get usually just a segfault or a bug in the function or something.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I made 2 typos in the history of Hyperland, and yeah, both were really annoying to track down. One of them, it was like Hyperland was like a month old or something, and I was writing implementations for the subsurface trees. So I could track them, I could damage them properly, I could send input to them properly and stuff like that, because otherwise it was pretty bugged. It's pretty bugged. And when a subsurface was destroyed, instead of connecting the handler for the destroy, I connected a different handler accidentally. I think I connected like the layer surface handler for destroy instead of the subsurface handler for destroy. And I couldn't find this typo for 2 weeks. And I read through that part of code like at least 5 times before I noticed that it said layer surface destroy and not subsurface destroy. And the bugs that it was crashing in completely random places, which usually means a race condition, but it didn't in this case. So you would just basically, I opened a menu in Firefox, I closed it, and then like 15 seconds later, the compositor crashed because a random list in a random place in core Wayland got corrupted.
Right.
I was like, what? So yeah, that took me 2 weeks to track down. I was like, never again. Then it happened again. This time I connected the correct event handler, but it was for layer surfaces. And even better, I never had the issue. Other people did.
Oh, that's always fun.
Even better, it worked on Wayland, core Wayland, like 0.22, and it broke on core Wayland 0.23 without any input from me. It broke for other people and not for me. So the issue was that instead of attaching my handler for layer surface destroy to the layer surface destroy event, I attached it to the layer surface destroy event, which got called later, meaning that the things that I was trying to operate on were already freed, which caused issues. And apparently not for me, because my PC is heap use after free resistant or something. I don't know. It took me like another 2 weeks to track down. And I was like, never again. And knock on wood, it has not happened again.
There's plenty of time for it to happen still, you know? It can happen at some point.
I mean, it could be happening right now, but I don't think it is. I hope not.
Oh, God.
I'm like wrapping everything now from WL roots that I can in like C++ types, because they are so much more safer. In the early days, I would not wrap like event handlers in C++ types. So whenever a window was created, I would connect the events. Whenever the window was destroyed, I would disconnect the events. Still caused it to randomly crash sometimes on a null event handler, or a non-existent event handler, or a non-freed event handler. How? I don't know. Then I wrapped it in a C++ class that when the class got destroyed, it would destroy the event handler and unlink it. It suddenly fixed itself.
Wow, crazy.
I don't know where was the one path that suddenly didn't unlink the event handler, but the compiler fixed it for me, I guess. Like, people like to shit on C and C++ because my Rust is so memory safe. Yeah, but like the problem is C. Like C++, when done correctly, maybe doesn't look the best, but it's actually pretty memory safe. If you do stuff correctly. If you do stupid things, then it's not. Which I guess is a pro for Rust, because in Rust, even if you do stupid stuff, unless you wrap it in unsafe, it can't be like memory unsafe.
It's the bubble wrap language.
Meanwhile, in C++, if you do something stupid, whether you realize it or not, you've done something stupid.
Yeah.
Which can later come and kick you in the ass. It does happen.
I can see that.
The longer you write, these memory faults are the fault of C, not
fair enough.
Not keeping track of stuff that you plug. Basically, like half of the stuff in W roots just takes random pointers and assumes that the pointers are correct.
Okay, right.
So yeah, in C++, when you actually wrap stuff and like check the types, so like you have the compiler guarding the types of stuff that is plugged in. So in C++, we don't just pass random void pointers to functions and expect them to be correct. No, we actually check the type. We don't pass random void pointers. I mean, sometimes we do, but it's generally not a good idea.
Mhm.
So, like, I really like C++. I know that people like to shit on C++ and say that Rust is better. No! One reason why Rust is not better than C++ is that I don't have 10 years of experience in Rust.
That's fair. Yeah.
And also, like, a lot, like probably like 30% or more of everything you use on a daily basis runs on C or C++. Like, you can't hide that fact that Linux is written in C, dbus is written in C, wroots is written in C, modder is written in C, Kwin is written in C++. Kind of like everything almost you use is somehow written in C. I mean, yeah, it can be written in Python, but then Python is written in C. And then you realize how everything runs in C. Does that mean that we
Rewrite
should
it all in
not
Rust.
Rust? No,
Rewrite everything
no,
in Rust.
see, I made a tweet once on Twitter.
That's a bad idea.
I don't use Twitter that much, but I once made a tweet and I said that, and I basically said Rust pros. And I was like, memory safe, more difficult to make a stupid mistake, better syntax for beginners.
Right.
C++ syntax, templates. Ugh.
Yeah, C++ is a little bit rough, yeah.
Rust cons, the community, and the community. Yeah.
I'm sure that went over well.
I mean, I don't know. I don't have many followers,
That's
but I got
fair.
a couple likes. It's just, just, I know that it's just the few bad apples that spoil the entire image of Rust, but Rust being that bubble wrap children toy language compared to something like C++, because it's not a toy language, but compared to something like C or C++, it is a toy language because it holds your hand a lot. It's gonna attract people that, of course, know less about coding, so they're newer. And who's gonna be newer to code? Young people. And young people tend to be, how we say that? Weird. I mean, I'm also, okay, I should be probably digging my own grave by now, but I wouldn't call myself normal. But yeah, then you have, the problem is that you have Rust, and then you're gonna have the people that are, well, off the average to the left and off the average to the right, and you will always find people to annoy you. So regardless whether you are a far-right conservative or a far-left blue hair, I don't know, freedom LGBT lover, you are gonna find someone to piss you off in the community. Although I feel like way more of the far left goes to Rust, probably because modern youth is mostly far left, like farther left than well, people older than us used to be.
Especially if you're looking at the places like, Silicon Valley, is Silicon Valley. Like,
Oh god,
yeah.
homeless
But
people
let's
on every
shift
street.
back away from that. Let's go back over to the Hyperland stuff.
Yes,
When you
politics
first
topics for a podcast.
it's not the best idea. Hyperland.
Welcome to the FTX podcast. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum.
I can just go talk to Luke Smith. He can go shill Monero to me. So when you first started Hyperland, you created the project, you opened it up in VS Code or whatever. Where did you go from there? What did you go to first to like work out what you were gonna do?
Well, before that, I need to show that I do not use NeoVim or Vim. I use VS Code. I'm a proud VS Code user. So first I tried seeing like the simplest implementations that I could have. So I didn't go into Sway because Sway is like 45,000 lines of code. I am not going to read through the entirety of Sway just to start. So just like, okay, I'm gonna go and see first the tiny WL, which is WL roots, like 900 lines of code, the absolute bare minimum for a display server. It's like their example of those 900 lines of code, like 500 are comments.
Right.
So it's like really, really small. So I basically read through it, and I was like, okay, I'll need to do this, this, and this. Absolutely. And then I went into DWL, which is like DWM for Wayland. And well, the code styling of DWM and DWL is absolutely atrocious. But well, painfully reading through that, I managed to get like a rough idea of what WL roots works like. And so I designed like a small plan for how to make this compositor. I was like, okay, I made Hyper. It's gonna be a bit similar because we still need to manage windows, so do this stuff, this animations, blah blah blah. And so I made a really rough base for just as I started with Hyper, just to render a window in the screen. I copy and pasted the config manager because why would I write a new one? Because the old one just worked. And then I started building on top of that. I implemented basic stuff like tiling and animations and just the absolute bare minimum. We had
I like how animations
animations.
is the absolute bare minimum.
We had animations, pseudo tiling, like transparency, borders, dynamic tiling, way bar, all that stuff, before I fixed the Firefox crashing your display server bug whenever you open the context menu.
Yeah.
And the even better part, I was using Hyperland as my daily driver,
Oh,
regardless of the fact that whenever I opened a Firefox context menu, I would crash. The solution to that was to not open a Firefox context menu.
How long into Hyperland existing did it take you to start daily driving it like that?
Weeks or something.
Oh god, yeah. Someone had to do it, I guess.
It was really painful at the beginning. I mean, it wasn't that painful. It was just like,
I guess that's your
you
motivation to
couldn't
make
do-
it work well.
you couldn't do a couple things. It was just like, I knew that I just can't open settings in Firefox, or I have to accept my fate of crashing in 15 seconds. So I was just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna open Firefox settings. I don't need them anyways. I can just do Firefox / settings. Yeah, it works, I guess. Yeah, so that was pretty fun. I think I made a Unixporn post after like a month of developing Hyperland. Like already showcasing the animations and stuff, and it got like 2,000 upvotes. It was really bare bones back then, but you already had like wallpapers and animations and all that fancy stuff.
Yep.
And then after like another month, I made another Unixporn post where I already had blur, rounded corners, multiple layouts, I think, stuff like that. I was just basically showcasing stuff, the dynamic config and stuff. And that post, I think, still is like the top 3 or top 4 of the year in Unixporn. It got a lot of upvotes. Let me actually check how many.
If you can send me the post,
I hope
can show
I hope
it.
you won't get demonetized for me saying porn.
I don't make money on this channel anyway. It's fine.
Oh,
I go to Unixporn and the first thing I see is a Hyperland post.
Yeah, the fourth post of this year, 11 months ago. So I actually made that post 1 month after I made Hyperland. That was early. Yeah, it already had like rounded corners, blur, like moving windows with your mouse, or all that stuff.
Here it is.
Yeah. I got like 50 rewards. it was like I think like it was less than 2 months. It was like 1.5 months probably. Like, does it actually show the date? Oh yeah, it does. April 11th. Wait, so that's like 28 days after I made Hyperland.
Oh my
Okay. That's a
god.
month after I made Hyperland. Yeah. So that was a pretty quick one.
Mhm.
Uh,
Ow.
and my title scheme was to that one guy that asked me to make a Wayland compositor, referencing that one guy that was very nice and kind with his words.
Oh, it's that one guy
Uh,
who asked me to keep developing Waiting Positive I am.
yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah. I think he actually went on to slander me on the internet, saying like that I was saying that, Wayland is garbage and I'll never work on it or something. I remember reading a comment like that once that, oh, it's very hilarious that this guy has a Wayland compositor because when I told him to use Wayland on his Xorg window manager post, he said that Wayland is garbage and that he will never use it. Meanwhile, my comment was literally like, yeah, man. I mean, if I get arsed enough to start developing in Wayland, I just might. I
No.
never said that Wayland is bad. Why would I say that Wayland is bad when I didn't even know back then what the hell Wayland was?
That's
Literally
such a
was like,
quick
what the hell
transition,
is
though.
Wayland? And I googled Wayland as like a display server protocol. I was like, okay.
Mhm.
Like people go to a bit of a stretch to slander me online because
The problem is you're getting too much attention. That's the problem. If this was a
I am
little
getting
compositor that no one cared
I
about,
am
it'd be
getting a lot
fun.
of attention, but I'm also probably I have to admit I'm not the nicest developer ever because when someone annoys me, I tell them to fuck off.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Look, I prefer
we
that rather than the passive-aggressive GNOME approach.
no. Ugh. I prefer that. I would prefer to be called the worst racial slur than to be ghosted. Like, because ghosting literally tells me nothing.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, when you call me stupid
Mhm.
and the N word, I at least know what you mean.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, if you ghost me, what?
Mhm.
Yeah, so we
Also,
had
you're
a.
very aware to just stop paying attention to the argument. Like, if that's the only thing they have, it's not like,
Yeah,
oh, this is why you're wrong about this. This is the exact thing. No, it's you're dumb. Like, okay,
uh,
sure. Are we just
please
throwing
leave
words
it, yes.
around? Like, what are we doing here? I'm gonna go
So,
back to making this compositor. Goodbye now.
yeah. Yeah, so the thing we had a bit. So we have a Discord server,
Mhm.
which is currently at like 2,000 people for some reason.
Jesus.
Yeah, like I started at like 15. I started one person, obviously, but then
Sure.
within like a week, we got like 15 people, and I got reminded that we have a lot of people when I checked it one day, and I noticed, oh wait, we have like 900 members, and I was like, yeah. And then I checked it once again, just out of the blue. I was like, oh, how many people do you have on Discord? I checked it like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, 1,800. And I was
Yeah,
like,
don't look at those
what?
numbers. They're not good for you. Just ignore the number.
Yeah, we have like 2,000 people in the Discord server now. Yeah,
Mhm.
and so on the Discord server, we had a very loose set of rules. It was like basically follow Discord's TOS,
Mhm.
don't be an asshole, and don't say that Hyperland is a clone of i3, or else I'll ban you. Because we had problems there. Oh, and there is also a rule to never ping me, because I hate being pinged.
That's fair enough.
And so had a very minimal set of rules. So we had people that would kind of indulge in questionable conversations about nothing, or about animal excrements in hashtag general or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had a bunch of incidents where someone would join, be very racist or whatever, and then get banned.
Mhm.
But like generally, whenever someone is like not serious or just lightheartedly joking or whatever, as long as it follows Discord's TOS, so he
Mhm.
doesn't literally threaten that he will bomb an orphanage,
Mhm.
we will allow it.
Sure.
And that was a bit of a problem because me, including the mod team, took that very to heart,
Mhm.
and we weren't the nicest people. Sometimes when someone was really stupid, it could get to that point that it would borderline on bullying someone.
Yeah.
if we're just telling them that they're literally dumber than they have a lower IQ than room temperature.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So oh, suddenly, well, it had to end, and because as the Discord server was growing, it was like probably like 2 weeks ago actually. I got an email on my Vaxry email, and I noticed the author of the email, the sender, was one of the big boys of Wayland. And the title, Hyperland Community. I was like,
Oh god.
shit.
Yeah. Good start.
I was
Yeah.
like, oh no. I opened the mail and I just see, hey Vaxry, very cool Wayland compositor you have there. Hope WL Roots has been to your liking. That said, there has been some mentions that transphobia is being tolerated on the Hyperland community Discord server. Do you want to talk about that? I was like, hell no, I don't want to talk about that, but I can't reply that way. And so we had a bit of a chat in which, I mean, fair enough. Some of his points were okay. Some of his points were kind of like, well, he's sticking his nose in, not his it's not his business. But as a result of that, we made a poll on the Discord server asking people whether they felt harassed or attacked on the Discord server. And 60% of people said no, but 40% of people said yes, which is a considerable chunk of the 2,000 that we have. And so we edited the rules saying that don't be an asshole for real. And now we stopped being that much of assholes. And I think it's kind of settled down. Because I remember one of the people that, well, I won't name them. Won't name them because I'm not naming here anyone. But the reason why the Wayland big boy mailed me was because one of the people that joined our Discord server got kind of laughed at, and I know who that is because they've been so open and loud about it that it's borderline hilarious. So first, I think actually you might probably know them, but I remember seeing them on I think a forum, either Reddit or somewhere else, under your or someone else's Hyperland video, and in another Discord server. They were just saying that Hyperland developers are the most transphobic, bigoted, terrible people online. Basically, they were saying that in multiple places. And apparently this news reached the Wayland committee, of which one of the big boys decided, oh, I'm gonna mail that guy. Why? The entire thing, because they joined the Discord server, they made a big deal out of their pronouns. One of the moderators, because they put their pronouns in their nickname and made a big deal out of them whenever someone was, because people were referring to them as he, which on the internet, let's be real, is a default. And so they edited their pronouns. And so one of the moderators changed their pronouns in their nickname to who/cares. And the best part, I noticed that everyone was changing their nicknames, so I disabled changing nicknames on the server for people that don't have an activity role of above something. And that nickname of theirs stayed. Who cares? And they got pissed, and they just left. And that was the entire thing. Yes, that was very unprofessional. But let's be real. Meh. Not really calling other people the N-word or something. I understand that it was probably not.
I can absolutely see why they got offended by that, and that. I can agree with that's a really an unprofessional way to handle that. If there is that many people on the server that kind of feel it's a bit of a toxic place, maybe at that point, it's worth thinking about the
Yeah,
way you're approaching stuff.
I agree. That's why this mail kind of ended this very toxic phase of the Discord server, and I started muting the most active people every now and then for like being over the board. Because I remember I'm currently first year university, so I was on a tutorial. I had my laptop open on hyper development because I was just replying to someone, and then I went over to help someone. And when I came back, one of the guys had, this massive PNG of like 3D text saying child porn. It's just the text, 3D massive text, child porn. And he sent like 10 of those, with each of them being something different, equally stupid. Like, then like gay sex and other stuff. And like 10 of those images. And I was like, I'm in a tutorial. I have my laptop open, and this is what I come back to. Guy got muted for like a week. Because it's kind of like that thing that we would probably let slide for, but it was right after that change, so no. It was like over the board. So yeah, so we kind of changed how the Discord server operates. It's way less of a toxic hellhole now, I would say.
Yeah.
But it probably still isn't like Unixporn Discord server levels of
Sure.
everyone is gonna lick your butthole just to be nice.
Do they even insult each other's screenshots there? I don't even know.
Unixporn Discord server was in emergency mode a couple days ago because I think Elkawar, WW creator.
Oh no, I don't know.
The guy that made EWW, which is widely used.
Oh,
everywhere.
okay, yep.
Elkawar, yeah, he's like I think a moderator or an administrator of the Unixporn Discord server. He got spotted. He joined the Hyperland Discord server and made a Hyperland rise within like 12 hours of joining and chatted for quite a while. And people on the Unixporn Discord server went into emergency mode because they were like, is Elkawar going to leave us for Hyperland? Really? And then I remember one of the guys that got like, I remember one guy, it was very, very, very long ago, like 9 months ago or something. One guy joined our Discord server, was very annoying, very disrespectful. So I replied with being very annoying, very disrespectful towards him. So we had a massive argument, and now he thinks that I'm an asshole, and I think that he's an asshole, and we're both probably right. And I remember this guy literally replied to that and said that if Elkawar chooses Hyperland over Unixporn, he's gonna ditch EWW and do something and never come back to Unixporn. I was like, damn, brother.
What is this?
Pretty serious.
You can be in multiple places at once. I don't know what the confusion there is. Also, I've not heard of this project before. This is actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't use it, but I would make my bar in it if it had a tray. But a tray is still a PR.
Right.
Oh god. I'm trying to find that one message of him, but I probably will not find it now, annoyingly, because whenever I try to find something, I can't. And whenever I don't want to find something, I will. Oh yeah, there is also this one comment, someone saying that I noticed that Hyperland is unoptimized AF after moving to SwayFX, which I posted in Hyper Development and had a good laugh. But yeah, there we go. Yeah, I've been informed that Elkawar will abandon the Unixporn community in favor of the Hyperland Discord server.
Oh my god.
And someone replied, WTF, Hyperland's dev is a huge dick, and the conversation happened here already multiple times. And then the guy that I told you about replied to that, I've been informed that if that happens, Elkawar will lose all my respect and can go F himself.
Look, to be honest, you are a bit of a dick, but like, sure, whatever. It doesn't matter.
I make software. I'm not here to be. You know Terry A. Davis, right?
Yes, I'm very aware of Terry A. Davis.
You know his attitude. There was this one clip online where he got a phone call and basically called the other person like the N-word 10 times, and people in the comments just said Temple OS customer support. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of me and like people that ask stupid questions. Although we have a .wiki command now to just send people to the wiki.
That's
The
good.
wiki is amazing.
Yeah. You know, it's always great when people ask questions that are like
People
tagged
like to
in a
shit on
very-
the wiki. People just can't read the wiki because
To be fair,
they failed the third grade.
to be fair, when I did my video on Hyperland, there was a bit of the wiki that was completely out of date. I was very confused about it.
No,
Documentation
your
is hard.
Hyperland version was out of date. The wiki was up to date. Now the wiki has versions. Like literally 2 days after you made your video, we had versioned wiki.
Oh, lovely! Did they get added because of the video?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, basically when I remember when you said that you were making a Hyperland video, me and one of my moderators, which is a good friend of mine, Buffy, we were every single day at like I think 8 p.m. for me and like 9 p.m. for him. We were just refreshing your channel to see if this is the day when you post that damn Hyperland video.
I'll make another one at some point as well, but because
and one day it just appeared, and literally like within probably like 4 hours, like half of the things that you mentioned I fixed, and then like the next day I made versioned wiki. I think that was it. Like every single thing that you complained about was addressed.
Like a version wiki isn't a super important thing, but having that there is just so nice when you are dealing with, you know, especially if it does eventually get shipped on something that moves a little bit slower, like an Ubuntu, things like that. Maybe not Ubuntu.
Won't.
No,
it won't.
Okay, but one of the like the flavors, like there's gonna be like an unofficial flavor at some, or like there'll be some sort of Debian-based distro or something like that that moves slower. That's not Arch Linux. Like it'll be somewhere that isn't Arch Linux or Gentoo, where you know you're not going to be on the latest version.
Unless we get off of wroot's Git, it will not happen unless someone is really dedicated to keeping that up, because we still depend on wroot's Git. We don't use version wroots,
right?
And so I keep a list of distros that have explicitly by like either a member of the distro or like a trusted user in the case of Arch or a similar thing entity have explicitly denied packaging Hyperland. And currently we have Alpine, Void, and Arch. Arch Linux denied packaging Hyperland. And I just want you to go currently go to AUR. It's aur.archlinux.org and click on packages.
Okay.
Read the name of the first package.
Oh, I don't even have to. I just see the what do you call it? The description of the website. The first package is Hyperland.
Yes. It beats Yay and Paru.
It is the
combined.
Most popular package.
Combined.
What?
It's the most popular package by like the second most popular package is Octopi, which is a Pac-Man front end.
Yeah, okay.
And Hyperland has like 50% more popularity.
To be fair, the top the top 5 packages, only one of them isn't related to Pac-Man.
Yes. Yeah. Hyperland.
All right then.
Yeah, and a trusted user denied and said that probably no one will package it for Arch because we bundle wroots, which, yes, kind of. The problem most people have is just the fact that you're kind of ripping away that package, that wroots is a package. But another issue is that wroots Git often depends on very new versions of other things.
Right.
And I remember one time, like, for example, people have unofficial, like, packages on Fedora's Koper for Hyperland. We'll have those. But every now and then, it breaks because libdrm is out of date.
Right.
Or something else is out of date. Or libdisplayinfo doesn't compile on Fedora unless you use the 1.0 version, which works, but you can't use the default one. And yeah, they have those issues. I remember someone got it to work on Ubuntu by compiling GCC, Wayland, Wayland Server, Wayland Core, Wayland Protocols, WRoots, and Hyperland. So you had to basically recompile the entire stack, the entire Wayland stack, plus have to compile GCC because GCC is too old. But it works on Debian unstable. So, that's cool. Because Hyperland uses GCC that's like not even a year old. Like we use 12. We use GCC 12. We require GCC 12, which has been out since like July 2022. And I remember we started using it in like December 2022, which made a lot of people mad because, for example, Void Linux is stuck on GCC 9, so it just wouldn't compile. So a bunch of people had to compile GCC in order to compile Hyperland. You literally had to compile a compiler to compile something. Yeah, that was fun.
I'm sure that was.
And currently, we even I don't know why we have an LLVM bug and it doesn't compile under LLVM under Clang because of I think have to use a different lib C++, lib std C++ than Clang's because Clang's has a bug that makes Hyperland not compile. So like, yeah, that's pretty nice. I'm glad we only officially support GCC. So people that are on non-GCC systems can go F themselves. Well, yeah, that's the problem. People, like,
they can work it out
the more people
if they want to maintain it,
using,
I'm sure you can appreciate the sport.
Yeah, the more people, like for example, the more people use Hyperland, the more I see how everything that I've made for the build system to work and for the thing to work is getting picked apart by different distros just to adapt to their own thing. So I have one guy, I think Jbeach is his username on GitHub, that whenever I break something for FreeBSD and Dragonfly and NetBSD or whatever other operating system on the BSD family, he will just storm in with a merge request being like, oh, hey, this actually is not used on BSD, so just a merge request, which is pretty cool. I appreciate that because, you know, I don't have to figure it out myself. And whenever I do something that I know or suspect is going to break on the BSDs, I just tag him and be like, oh, this might break BSDs, you know? And oh god, Gen 2 has an e-build, or multiple e-builds for Hyperland. Some of them literally patch Hyperland to work on versioned WRoots. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
But it's probably gonna break someday or require a lot of rewriting or stuff. Yeah, I think also BSD does that. Also BSD patches like Hyperland for, and then you have like tons of other patches for the package build to be different. Then you have the Nix flake that Fuffy maintains. I remember once, I think one of the dependencies on Nix was outdated. I think it was libdrm. And I remember I was like, hey, so why is the CI failing continuous integration? We have like, whenever I commit, it compiles the code, and we have Arch and Nix. And on Arch, it would be succeeding, and on Nix, it would be failing. I was like, hey man, why is it failing? And he's like, oh yeah, because one of the packages is outdated, and he linked me a merge request to the Nix repositories to update the package. And I was just like, yeah, okay, but it's just a package update. Can't you like override it like you do in Nix? He's like, yeah, I did that. Then why is it still compiling? Why is it compiling for 40 minutes? Because it was compiling for 40 minutes. And then he was like, yeah, look at the merge request. And I clicked on the merge request, and in the tags that automatically a bot assigns, it said recompile needed 10,000 plus. So So that's why, because basically by overriding this one version, you had to recompile pretty much the entire operating system. That was funny.
Yep.
I don't know what happened in Nix. Nix is pretty weird, but yeah, that was pretty funny. I thought that Nix handled dependencies pretty well, you know, multiple versions, one system and stuff. Apparently something went very wrong. But one of the things recently that broke BSDs, but I want to mention because it's one of the coolest things I've done in Hyperland yet, is the plugin system. We have a plugin system now.
Huh.
And it's not like scripts like we used to do before, which you can still do because scripts are super easy to do. You can just write a script that just executes a hypercontrol command and just sends something or listens to like events. But now you can write plugins that directly interact with the code base.
Okay.
You can basically do anything you want the code base, and you can also do function hooks, which...
So a lot like the way Awesome does it, or am I misunderstanding it?
I've never really worked with Awesome, but Awesome is just written in Lua.
Yeah, it has
like all of its configuration is just in Lua.
Yeah,
but
it exposes everything in the code base like with Lua, from my understanding.
So plugins are basically that kind of thing. But the thing with plugins is, I think with Awesome, since it's written in Lua, you probably can hot reload stuff. If you change something, you can just save it and like reload something, and it will probably apply. But in Hyperland, since we're written in C++, we can't just embed Lua because that would be basically the same thing as shell scripts.
Yeah.
If you want to expose the entire code base, the plugins are written in C++ and are compiled to shared objects, so like .so files, that you can just inject with hypercontrol into Hyperland and eject them. So you can dynamically shuffle them. And they expose the entire code base, and you can also do function hooks, which are really cool. So you can take any function in Hyperland's code, and basically, hook works like this. So when you have a function, you place your own hook, so your own function gets called whenever that function would be called, instead of the original function. And you can call the original function later, but so you can modify its inputs, outputs, you can stop it from executing, you can write your own logic, or whatever. It just exposes a lot of things. For example, making your own layout plugin, really simple. A guy within like a week made a plugin to support the River protocol for window managers in Hyperland, which is really cool. And within like 2 days, a guy made a plugin to manage plugins in Hyperland.
Yeah.
And now he said that it's actually ready for version 1 because it can update itself. So a plugin that can update itself on a running Hyperland, manage other plugins, and update them on a running Hyperland. Which is really cool in my opinion.
That is really awesome.
Like, it's really, really cool. It allows you to do a lot of things. Like, we have a repository for official plugins, which includes a plugin for double borders, which was a feature a lot of people apparently
double
liked.
Borders meaning
you have one border and then another border around that.
No, I got that part. I mean, like, why would someone want that?
I don't know. Some people really like them.
Sure. Okay.
Actually, when like 2 days after I released the plugin system, someone on Discord asked double borders when. And I just linked them the official plugin that I wrote within like 4 hours of the plugin system being online. We also have a plugin for title bars, which was a requested feature. So like window top bars, like KDE style.
Yeah. For some reason.
And we have a plugin that I use for CSGO fix, because CSGO is bugged and it's a problem with CSGO, and I don't want to put it in the core repository because it's just a CSGO issue.
I see what you mean about double borders. So you have like a regular border, and then for some reason I guess just a rising thing. Yeah.
For a rising thing, we have gradient borders.
I don't think I've seen anyone do that.
Well, now I've seen a lot of people do that Hyperland has it, and a lot of people apparently like it. I mean, I use them. They're pretty cool.
That's actually really cool.
And you can animate them.
Oh, okay.
You can animate the borders, like spin.
Oh, wow. Eric has a video, the Archer Linux guy. Okay, let's have a look.
Yeah.
Of course he does. Eric.
Oh
has...
yeah, Eric has an issue currently for some reason with 0.23. It apparently freezes his entire
Okay.
system for some reason, but I can't repro it. Even
I
try
should,
this config.
I should just assume that every possible thing to do with Arch is going to have a video from Eric. That's really cool.
Yeah, you can animate them. Because
Animate them.
people were
Cool.
really adamant that you should be able to make a spinning border. And I was like, guys, please, Jesus Christ. And they were like, no, please, spinning borders. And I was like, okay.
I just want you to make a full animation framework. Like, what is this?
I had a proposal from someone
Of course you
when
did.
Hyperland was like 2 months old to implement a goddamn physics engine with Windows because he didn't like how animations looked non-realistic because when he yanked a window, it didn't behave like a solid body. What? Yes, me on my way to implement a physics engine for a goddamn Wayland compositor.
Look, if that could be done efficiently, I would
simulation.
love that. That'd be hilarious.
I mean, there is a wobbly Windows merge request that
Yeah.
someone was working on, but then they didn't know how to do it.
How
so
long
they
until
stopped,
someone
and
asks you to implement every single one of the effects from Comp is?
someone has already asked that, and I said no. I am not implementing a goddamn cube. That's like the stupidest thing you can ever implement. It's so
Do you
2007.
want to know the fun thing? Wayfire's already done it, so you don't have to really think about it.
Yeah. Wayfire has all of the weird animation effects, like fire windows or whatever. It's why? Like, it looks very 2007. Like, sorry, it just looks very 2007.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
And
I get it why people like it, but like it's not my thing.
I get it, but I don't want to add unnecessary complexity to the code base just to make it look more 2007.
Here's what you do, right? You make a plugin system and let someone else do it.
Yes, and you ask people to make a plugin. Like, make your own decoration for that. Yeah, that's... someone actually... Rust people. We have one guy that maintains the Hyperland community, like GitHub, what's it called? Organization.
Yep.
They maintain like the awesome Hyperland list, which is really cool. And he also writes stuff in Rust. So he, for example, when we just started doing like the sockets, so you could do bash scripts, he made a wrapper in Rust, so you could do like your own scripts in Rust for Hyperland. And then he made like a couple things in Rust. And I remember when the plugin system landed, he made a repo called Hyperland Plugins Rust. And it was just called like a placeholder for a Rust wrapper for the Hyperland plugins. And it's still empty to this day because I think he realized that a wrapper for a plugin library, that the main point of it giving you more control is the fact that you can interact with the code base. And you can't do that when you wrap it in Rust because you can't read C++ objects from Rust. It's kind of not possible. So like you would be throwing away all the upsides of plugins by writing a Rust wrapper, which kind of why?
That's so stupid. I love it though.
Yeah, Rust people realizing they can't rewrite everything in Rust.
Rewrite Hyperland in Rust.
But yeah, some people have suggested that, and I just said no. Not rewriting Hyperland in Rust. You can't use W roots with Rust. The bindings failed.
Oh, I was gonna say write Rust bindings for W roots.
No. Rust bindings for WS failed because of the reason that I told you. It's just that W roots passes everything as void pointers,
Right.
which Rust
Okay.
really doesn't like. So the bindings basically failed because nothing could be made memory safe.
Write a wrapper for W roots to write a wrapper in Rust.
No, it's called Smithy. And it's just W roots written in Rust.
That's fair.
Written in Rust.
Yeah, if you want to write a compositor in Rust, just do Smithy. It's getting all the attention from Pop OS right now. I'm sure it'll become better over time.
Because Pop OS wants to base Cosmic on it.
because they really don't like GNOME.
Yeah, I mean, there are only two types of people: new Linux users and people that don't like GNOME.
Oh god.
Yeah.
So when you started writing Hyper and Hyperland, what sort of experience did you have in development? Because you were new to Linux, but I
much.
presume you weren't new to like programming just generally.
For my age, too much. So, a little bit of backstory on me. I am 20.
Uh-huh.
I should be probably digging my own grave. I know, blah blah blah. I already have a grave. Because I'm getting old and stuff. Back pain, osteoporosis.
Yeah. The baby 20-year-old. Yeah.
So, yeah, average 20-year-old back pain and stuff. So when I was 9 years old, I loved tinkering with computers. And I asked my dad is an engineer. And I asked my dad, like, hey dad, so I can change a wallpaper. I can write a small script. I can fiddle with the files. I can try to edit this and that. But like, how do I do more? How do I like write my own application or something? How do I make my own game, my video game? And he was like, no clue, but I heard that, C++ is a programming language. C was very popular, so C++ could be cool. And I was like, okay, Dad, thanks. And this was like right around Christmas, so I just wrote a letter to Santa and I asked for something C++. And in Poland, and I'm not currently in Poland, but I'm from Poland, I'm Polish. We kind of have two Christmases. We have like the Santa Day and we have Christmas. So for Santa Day, it's like 8th of December. You just give small gifts. So like, I don't know, $10. And then for Christmas, you give the actual gifts. But like the Santa Day is like for kids mostly.
Right.
So for the Santa Day, I asked something C++. And I woke up the next day and I got 2 books, 1,000 pages each. Title, Symphony of C++.
I've not heard Symphony of C++. Okay.
It's a Polish book.
Okay, right.
It's a Polish book. I don't know if it's made by a Polish person. Probably.
That looks like a Polish. It's a name that is very much not an American
yes,
name.
These books. Yeah, Symphony C++ Standard, ISO C++. Yeah.
That is a cover page on it. I love it.
Yeah, it has 2 books, 2 separate volumes. Each are like 1,000 pages.
Jesus.
They're like very, very long. And me being a typical 9-year-old with the attention span of a Chihuahua, I read both of them. Actually, those remain one of the few books I actually read the entirety of until I was 19. So, so I read those and I really enjoyed it. And I started, tinkering with stuff. I remember in 4th grade, I would be writing like small utilities. I actually still have 2 of them. Somehow they survived on my drive. One of them was like a calculator. The other was like a quiz app. And they were all just in the console. But I would just be writing cool stuff, in 4th, 5th grade. And my IT teacher, who would later kill themselves for some reason, I don't know. He really enjoyed it. He said that, it was really cool, that I had potential and stuff. And so I basically, started like coding some stuff, cool stuff. And then I had a bit of a hiatus. I stopped for a bit because I didn't really find anything. I was in kind of that phase of being a young person and I saw I could do a lot of things in the console, but I didn't know. I was like, for example, how do I make my own game or something?
Right.
I just didn't know. And me being a young person, I just assumed that C++ just can only do console stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, well, whatever. And so I stopped for a while. But then my interest in coding got rejuvenated by questionable activities, which was cheating in online games.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was like, yeah, cheats are pretty cool. Oh, and they're written in C++. Oh, I know that. And then, like 2015, I made an account on one of the most popular cheating websites, like forums where people would discuss cheats and writing cheats and stuff. And I would be writing a lot of my own cheats for video games, which, well, helped me a lot to learn about C++ and how it works and memory hacking. And to this day, I know how to reverse engineer and read assembly and byte patch and all of these things. The hooks that I did in the plugin system, I learned by writing video game cheats. When I had a job in the biggest Polish IT company at the age of 17, I have to brag about that. I used IAT hooking for one thing that Windows just sucked at. It was just so annoying because if I wanted to get core dumps from the app that crashes, I had to overwrite the Windows core dump thing with my own thing, which I could do by setting an IAT hook, which I learned while writing programs that were borderline malware previously. So I just learned all the worst stuff and then somehow found a way to use it. Disclaimer, I never actually wrote malware. I just wrote things that were borderline malware.
Yeah, that's really a good disclaimer to have.
Just for fun. I was writing just for fun, like when I had a cheat, I was writing like a loader that would authenticate with like a server and then like monitor the activity on the computer so that someone wasn't trying to dump it or like leak it or crack it or whatever. And yeah, that kind of worked like malware because it was injecting into like almost every single process on the computer and monitoring itself. Yeah, that's how I learned this. Yeah, this is borderline malware.
I don't. It's at that point,
Sony DRM vibes.
I don't know if you. Yeah,
Sony DRM.
The borderline is a bit difficult to say there.
I never deployed it. I never deployed it.
Okay.
It was just for me. I never used it on anyone.
Allegedly.
Except for one of my friends, but he was just in. He was in for the testing. He was just like, he wanted to test if it works, and he knew everything.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's how I learned the stuff. And I literally copy pasted the code from that thing into my job, into the thing that I had to fix. And I remember one of my supervisors, when he was reviewing my merge request, he was like, "What the fuck?" And I was just like, "Yeah, don't worry, it works." And I was like, "Okay." It was just like really complex, complicated, like Windows internals. I was literally digging through structs that were named DOS header to dig through the exe parameters, because Windows for some reason still accepts DOS headers for exes. What the hell? But yeah, it looked very sus. But it was just like, okay, whatever.
Jesus Christ.
But yeah, that's my background in programming.
So how did that lead you into Linux eventually?
Oh, into Linux? It didn't.
Okay.
I wrote a bunch of utilities for Windows later, because I wrote Mosaic, which was pretty cool, which was a program to make mosaics of images. I was just experimenting with SFML, which is like a multimedia library. I used it for rendering and stuff, so I didn't have to do OpenGL. I experimented with making my own Minecraft utility client, which are commonly known as hat clients, because I play on a certain anarchy server in Minecraft that allows the usage of such clients. So I forked one client, I made my own.
Is it the oldest anarchy server in Minecraft?
No, it's the best anarchy server in Minecraft. It's 9b90. So yeah, I had a bit of Java here, a bit of C++ in writing apps and stuff, and then when... Actually, I don't remember. Oh yeah, on the 9b90, on 9b90, I met one guy. I met a good old friend of mine. We kind of fell apart after like 2 years. Flammable Duck, and he kind of introduced me into Linux. I remember at the beginning, because he was a Linux user, he used like Endeavor, and at the beginning, he was like, "Oh yeah, why don't you just use Linux and stuff like that?" I was like, "Yeah, I don't really like how Linux looks like and stuff like that, because when I see people use Linux, it kind of looks weird." he was like, yeah, no, Lux isn't like about Linux. It kind of doesn't work like that. And I was just like, yeah, everything works in Windows for me for now. I don't know. But then like he reminded me a couple times, and I just was like, oh, that's pretty interesting. And then I asked another friend of mine actually in Poland that I knew like personally, and he was also using Linux. I was like, I'm gonna try it out. It looks pretty cool. And yeah, and then we had the NVIDIA problem. But that didn't discourage me. I started using Linux, and I really liked it. And I never booted into Windows on any of my own machines ever again. Yeah, so my programming experience didn't kind of lead me into Linux. One of my friends led me into Linux.
And now you write Hyperland, and it's
somehow.
So what's it been besides, having to deal with the Discord stuff? What's it been like? Just because how quickly did Hyperland sort of take off? Is like the first 3 months, but look at the graph, like that's when it was sort of really picked up.
In the beginning, it had a bunch of bumps, which are usually Unixporn posts.
Yep. So there was one, nothing at the start, then about a month in it bumped up, then about 3 months in it got another bump, and then from there it's just progressively grown.
Yeah, it's just progressively grown. Just kind of now we got like a solid just influx of people because we basically beat Sway when it comes to everything.
Yeah.
Except maybe some stability issues.
Yeah.
Though, no, to be honest, like I would say that for like 80% of people, Hyperland is just stable. It's just that those 20% still have occasional issues.
Okay, to be fair, I haven't used Hyperland in a while, so maybe it's more stable now. So I was actually going to do a video on Hyperland, I think a month or two earlier than I actually did it.
Yeah.
But when I first looked at it, for some reason, everything was just flickering. I was like, let's not do it now.
Yeah, because you hit those 3 days when that was an issue.
Yeah. So I gave it like like a month or so after that, and I was like, okay. Yeah. Okay, it's good.
So the thing with Hyperland currently is it doesn't crash.
Well, that's good.
It doesn't crash for like, I would say 80% of people, it doesn't crash ever. But it still occasionally has things that you wouldn't expect it doing. Like, I don't know, you move a window or full screen a window. I can't think of any issues off the top of my head, because if I had any issue, I would patch it within 20 minutes. But yeah, like those minor issues, like, I don't know, you move a window here and there, it doesn't do exactly what you would expect it to do, stuff like that. But they aren't like really like fatal issues, like, you know, your entire display server goes down. I haven't had Hyperland like properly crash because of Hyperland's fault like months now.
Okay.
And I mean, like, of actual usage, because of course when I'm developing a feature and I just want to test it in a real session, sometimes it crashes because I just wrote something wrong, but I'm just developing it, I didn't push it even. But yeah, those apart from that, especially if you use the tagged releases, you're pretty much not crashing unless you have a laptop that for some reason physically disconnects the monitor when you close the lid. Yeah, that's
I didn't know.
Mostly fixed. Mostly fixed. Some laptops actually do. Mine doesn't. Some do for some reason. And it would cause issues, and it's still an open issue because one person has an issue with that. Because there were like 20 people that had the same issue. 19 of those don't have the issue anymore. One of them has, and it's the issue I told you earlier, where it's a thing that should never crash.
Right.
But it does for him somehow. So I would say that Hyperland is pretty stable now. If you are like in those 80% of people. If you are in those 20, I don't know, of course, the precise measurements, right?
Sure.
Then it still may have some rough edges, but please don't feel intimidated. Report it on GitHub. Of course, before reporting on GitHub, please use the search function because it might be reported already. But if you crash, please report on GitHub. We have crash reports. They are stored in the issue guidelines. They have a path to the crash reports. Send the crash report, and it tells a lot. Some crashes I fix within 5 minutes because it's just oh shit, I forgot this may happen.
Hey, look, avoid
And it's just
pointer.
one check for one null check.
Yep.
That's it, and it's fixed.
Mm.
So like a lot of those crashes are just oopsies because I don't have a quality assurance team checking my code.
Yep.
Every single line I change. And I don't want to be like Wayland Protocols where everything is a merge request that takes 20 years to be merged.
Yeah.
Not the way I want Hyperland to take. I
No,
want Hyperland to be like a cool, actually like really this kind of multiple features, just eye candy, open to the user. So like kind of like KD. It just allows the user to do a lot of stuff. Not like GNOME, where it prevents user from doing stuff.
I think a big part of the reason why Hyperland sort of gained a lot of attention is there's been this sort of... A lot of the existing compositors were kind of just... They did one thing really well, but they didn't do everything. It's like, okay, if you want to have something rock solid... Sway. It's literally just i3. If you like i3, it's fine. If you want something fancy, there's Wayfire. But there wasn't something where... I guess Swayfire was a thing, but no one really maintained that much.
No, it wasn't a thing. Let's be real. It just failed.
Yeah, it was it existed.
The problem with Wayfire is that it's mostly treated, I think, as a toy.
Yeah.
I think as just kind of a proof of concept of what Wayland can do, but like not as an actual thing people would use.
But then Hyperland comes along, it's like, okay, it's a window manager that has these, these desktop environment level
it's a Wayland
animations.
Compositor, it's not a window manager.
Whatever. Yes, it's a Wayland Compositor. it's a tiling Wayland Compositor. There we go. I guess you're also floating though, so whatever.
Dynamic tiling.
Yeah, dynamic tiling, Wayland Compositor. There we go, sure. I jump on people for the terminology sometimes as well, it's fun. And I should go and actually give Hyperland another proper shot, just to see what it's like now. Give it like, a long, month, 2 months, actually like trying to daily drive it, just to see what sort of problems end up cropping up, and really if any problems in my day-to-day stuff really does.
Yeah, obviously there's like 194 open issues currently on the Hyperland bug tracker. So it like I have a lot of things to do, but I try to prioritize currently stability. So like issues that crash the display server are like real things to me that I focus on, or like things that produce like very awkward or annoying states. For example, if there would be an issue with the layout where, for example, windows would be invisible, I had an issue. A guy reported an issue that if you would move a group, so like in i3 or Sway, I think it's called the tabbed container. So if you would move a group from one monitor to another, then all the windows that weren't active when you moved the group would be invisible. And I treat those things really seriously because they seriously impact the user, because those windows are currently unretrievable. You can't get them back unless you like dissolve the group and then make it again. So the guy reported the bug, and within like 6 hours, I made a fix and closed the issue. Because like those issues that seriously impact the user, I take them really seriously and try to fix them just ASAP. Like, if I know what is causing this, I'll just fix it within a couple hours. Because I have no life.
No, I think
my girlfriend can attest.
I think the way you're approaching it is, it's one of those things that a lot of FOSS projects I've noticed, they do the exact opposite. There's a lot of projects out there that really focus on those fancy, fancy bells and whistles, the fancy effects, the fancy whatever, but the foundation isn't solid. And you had those fancy effects early on.
Portal.
Sorry?
XDG desktop portal.
But you are trying to just make that... like, if the foundation is solid, That's the thing
Yes.
that most people are going to notice. Most people aren't going to be using every single effect that's there. It's cool to have them. It does sort of like grab attention on Unixporn, things like that.
People won't even discover that they exist.
Exactly, yeah. You want to have them have a good experience, then they can explore the rest of what's available.
Yes. Absolutely. Laying foundation, XDG desktop portal. You know that thing, right? The problem, if you have a WLR or Hyperland backend on your system and you install KDE or GNOME, it should prioritize WLR or Hyperland, the portals that it provides, and use the rest of the portals as a backup, right?
Right.
Well, the problem is that if you install KDE or GNOME implementations, the entire XDG desktop portal just kind of dies. It won't work. Like everything is broken. Literally, the moment you install XDG desktop portal KDE and you launch Hyperland, screen sharing will not work. Most of the things that you would expect portals to do won't work. Any single app that utilizes dbus will launch 30 seconds because it will time out trying to get the portals. Just will time out and will just ignore portals altogether because something is broken. And I submitted an issue and they were like, yeah, this probably might be fixed with this one PR, and this one PR just kind of clarifies what portals to use in which environments. And I mean, maybe, I replied maybe, but you can see from the logs that XDG desktop portal doesn't take the portals for screencast and screen copy that WR or Hyperland provides. It doesn't take them from KD, but still for some reason produces a timeout. What is happening? They're just like, I don't know. Cool, great. So even worse thing, like it used to be not very big issue. Just like remove KD or GNOME if you have it and just don't keep it, right? The problem on Arch since like a month ago, XDG desktop portal KDE is a hard dependency of Plasma integration. So because I use Plasma integration to have Qt themes or KDE system settings or some other KDE apps, Dolphin, I had to literally pacman RNSDD, so remove, purge, remove every file, and ignore dependency checks, the portal, and then add it to ignore package. Great. This is a superb solution. So like it's super annoying. I might just one day just get mad enough to like try and debug the actual XDG desktop portal and see what the hell is going wrong, because something is going very wrong there, and it's just really annoying for me to have that notice for everyone to like read and pay attention that they have KDE, and still so many people had those timeouts. So I recently added literally a notification that Hyperland will pop you a notification if you have KDE or GNOME installed telling you to remove it because it's going to cause issues. And of course, I can't use the system notifications. I had to use the Hyperland built-in notifications because system notifications won't work because the dbus is timing out. So dbus notifications won't work.
Oh my god.
And also some people don't have a notification daemon, so.
Right. Jesus Christ.
It's a mess.
So, one last thing I want to talk about is, besides just dealing with the bugs and all the foundation stuff, what do you want to actually add into Hyperland? Like, what's coming in the future that you think would be, really cool?
Or
even something you're not working on right now, something that you just want to see add.
Yeah, plugins were for a long while on a list of like off in the future someday maybe, and then one day I went like I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna make a plugin system. I don't really have a long-term like ground plan for Hyperland, what to add and what not. Because in the beginning, yes, I had a bunch of things that I really wanted to implement, but now I think that most of the things that I really wanted to implement have been implemented.
Okay.
And the things that are left to implement are, of course, fixing bugs, but the 120 or so enhancement issues on the bug tracker. So some things people are really cool things that people are requesting, but some things I can now delegate to plugins. So also for a long while, I don't like the Hyperland shadows because the window shadows, I'm pretty sure they work like they should, but they don't look great.
Right.
At least I can't configure them to look great. I know some people have, but I don't know how. So like there is this suggestion for something like, I think it's taken from Material U or something like that, where you have double shadows. One of them is different than the other.
Okay.
Which, yeah, pretty cool. But generally my roadmap now is to fix bugs and add the features that I find that should be in Hyperland into Hyperland that people have requested. But we also have made two censuses. We call them censuses, which is basically a glorified form about Hyperland enjoyment survey. So how do you enjoy Hyperland? What should we focus on? And what are your biggest pains with Hyperland? We have made two of those. I think we will make like a third one sometime soon because we haven't made one in a while. So I like to know what the community's opinion is. I remember in the first one, people were really adamant on the fact that Hyperland was very buggy. And like 60% of people said that the priority currently should be fixing bugs. And by the time we got to the second census, the amount of people that thought fixing bugs should be the priority dropped to like 30%.
Wow.
So we could see the improvement. I'm still talking about myself in plural, like 19 personalities or whatever.
There's other people that might do something.
I mean, let's be real, I wrote 95% of the code.
Yeah, I think that, to be fair, that's the way it works with most FOSS projects.
Yeah, sure. And so I because after the first census, I was like, yeah, I really need to fix the bugs. I know that the community says that, and that's really a priority. And then with the second census, we got like bugs and features and stuff like that. And so I think that we currently need a third census to see what the public's opinion on bugs is. Because I just threw that 80-20 because, I don't know, that seemed like a reasonable ratio, but I don't know what the ratio is. I don't collect telemetry on the users. Maybe I should, haha, GNOME. But I don't. I don't really want to have Hyperland connect to the World Wide Web by default.
That's fair.
So I think I should make another census and see like what the public's opinion on bugs is. Because if still like 30% people think that fixing bugs should be the priority, then absolutely I should focus on bugs. But if it's like 10%, that means that the bugs that were really annoying people have been mostly ironed out, and I can also focus a bit on adding new features.
Yep.
Maybe adding them as plugins. I don't know. Some of them may be better as plugins. Some of them maybe not.
Well, it seems like the project is coming along really well. People are really
Hyper well. We have a joke on the Discord server that everything we do is hyper. So we have a hyper server, we have a Minecraft server, Hyper MC.
I'm sure that doesn't get
we have a hyper
really
website.
Quickly. Yep.
We have Hyperland, we have a Hyper Wiki. And now
HyperWiki makes it sound like it's the wiki for Hyper, not for Hyperland.
Someone asked me whether I was planning on expanding Hyperland, and I was like, expanding to what? And they said, like a display manager, like a kernel. I was like, what?
Hyperland bootloader.
The hyper kernel, and then the hyper bootloader, and then Hyper D. So like System D, but Hyper D.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome. Yeah, I do need to get back and actually check on the state of Hyperland on my system. Last time I used it, it was pretty good. And it sounds like it's only gotten better since then. And there are some of those things like the gradient borders and things like that where I didn't even know that was a thing, or the plugins and having the river layouts. Like, that's all really cool stuff. And assuming the foundation is solid on my system, which it sounds like it should be, I guess I should probably replace Sway with Hyperland and just see how it goes as like a long-term thing.
I have a killer Sway feature planned. Manual tiling plugin.
Oh my... If you actually do that, that would be hilarious. I don't like manual tiling. I think manual tiling is the dumbest thing in the world. But
it's horrible.
I get why people like it. If you're one of those people who are very particular about where things are placed, I get it. I think you're stupid, but I get it.
True. I mean, technically, with the dwindle layout on Hyperland, you can also do that.
Oh, well,
because
yeah.
if you set preserve split to 1, then you can just toggle the split of every single window.
Okay.
Where it's like manual. But
Yep,
why would you do that? I don't know.
Well, let the people know where they can find everything you do.
Brody. Best idea.
Yes.
Monthly Hyperland review.
Look, there's enough content to do it. That's the thing.
This month in Hyperland. you know the Linux experiment. Brody's, you're gonna be like, welcome to this month's Hyperland news.
Jesus. No, but I definitely do need to get back and actually check it out and see how it's actually going on.
Inshallah, it doesn't crush on you.
Yeah, that would be a good. That'd be a good.
That'd be awkward.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, let people know where they can find your stuff.
GitHub.
GitHub, go to WM.
Hyperland.org is our website, and you can find links to the GitHub, to the Discord server, to the wiki there. Wiki is the most important thing. If you use Hyperland, the wiki should be like your holy Bible. It has everything you need to know. Literally. Probably could survive off of the wiki alone without asking anyone for help. You actually read it.
I read
That's too much for some people.
At one point, yes. But apparently it's better now. And there's also your Discord, the Discord server on the website. Yes. Yes. Anything else to mention? Anything else that should be of note?
Hyperland, best Wayland compositor ever.
Okay, sure. As for me, main channel, Brody Robertson, do Linux videos there 6 days a week. Probably going to do a Hyperland video, I don't know, sometime between now and the end of the year. I'll work it out at some point. Gaming channel, Brody on Games, right now playing through Hogwarts Legacy and Yakuza 0. And if you're listening to the audio version of this, the video version is available on YouTube, and the audio version is available anywhere you find podcasts. Just go to a podcast website, it'll probably be there, and there is an RSS feed. That's gonna be it.
I also have a YouTube channel. I make 1990 videos.
Do you want me to actually link the channel or not?
You can link it. I don't mind. I make 1990 videos. Block Game Anarchy server from time to time.
What is the channel? Is it Vaxry?
Vaxry.
Oh, it is Vaxry.
It's just Vaxry.
I see it. 10 reasons not to play 2B2T, but 1990.
Exactly.
I see. The last video was
Master
3
of
months ago.
Shilling.
You're too busy working on a Hyperland.
Yes, and yes. And very much yes.
Cool. Do you have a final word to say? Anything to close us off?
Even if I am an asshole, I still love every single one of Linux users. But like in the like normal sense, like brother in Christ, not like, kisses and stuff.
Kiss your enemies on the lips. Cool. And I'm out.